This is the third section on chapter 1 on data collection, and this section is about non-random sampling. Now this section doesn't contain any examples, it's purely definitions. So the first type of non-random sampling is quota sampling. Now quota sampling selects items or people based on a certain characteristic that reflects the whole population. Now usually this is used by a person completing some sort of questionnaire. So an example might be the person that's completing the questionnaire, or person doing the research, has been told beforehand that they maybe need to pick 10 people that wear glasses, 20 people that are pushing a pram, and 3 people with a walking stick. And they would have a look at the people that come along. If they fit their quota, if they fit the characteristic that they want, they will interview that person, then move on to the next person. And then when they've completed their quota of the different characteristics, then they would stop. Now it may be that the person doesn't know if they fit a certain characteristic until they start questioning them. So for example, it may be that they need to find a quota of, let's say, 20 people who drive a certain type of car. Well, they're not going to know that if they're just stopping people in the street, so they will start to question them. If they find they drive that certain type of car, they will carry on questioning them. If not, they will let them go, move on to the next person that they can stop. The next type of non-random sampling is called opportunity sampling. Now it can sometimes be called convenience sampling. And then what it does, it selects items, or normally people, that are available at the time. So you can think of it as someone who's in the right place at the right time for the person who's carrying out the research, the questionnaire person. And that person needs to have the characteristics that you are interested in, that you want. They fit the criteria for your sample. So now let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of quota sampling and opportunity sampling. Okay, so let's have a look at quota sampling. So advantages in blue, disadvantages in red. So quota sampling, even if you've got a small sample, it can still reflect the population. Another advantage is that you don't need a sampling frame, and that it's quick, easy and cheap. And also you can use it to compare different groups quite easily. Disadvantage is that it can introduce bias, and particularly with this type of non-sampling sampling. Now you need to divide the population into groups. That could be time consuming and expensive. And if you have lots of groups within your population, that also increases the time and expense required. And anybody that decides they don't want to respond, they're not recorded in the quota sampling. You just move on to the next person. With opportunity sampling, only a couple of things really. Advantages is that it's easy and cheap. Disadvantage, it's unlikely to produce a representative sample of the population, and also it relies on a researcher. If the researcher has their own biases, that will introduce bias into the sample. So you should now be able to do exercise 1C on pages 8 to 9 of the textbook.